Good morning, CLC. I invite you now to join me in just loving yourself just a little bit. Getting yourself in that space that only love resides. If you feel so inclined, go ahead and take a nice deep cleansing breath in, breathing in the cool calmness that surrounds you. And as you release the breath, release all that no longer serves you. Go ahead and take another nice, deep, cleansing breath in, breathing in oxygen, breathing in life. And as you release the breath, allow your body to just relax in this moment. And allow your mind to be here, now. Universal love enfolds me. Universal wisdom inspires me. Universal spirit enlightens me. Universal power encircles me. I am one, and all is well. As we begin this inner healing process, let me invite you to relax in quiet confidence, opening yourself up to this miracle-working higher power. Now symbolize the unity of your thinking and feeling nature by touching your chest with your hand, and let my words act as your own, for your own inner healing, acceptance, and receptivity. I acknowledge that there is a power, intelligence, and wisdom greater than my own. I am in the midst of it, and it is in the midst of me, sensitive and responsive to my every thought, word, action, and feeling. I now make this true for myself by saying aloud, I acknowledge. Acknowledging this higher power working through my life, I admit that I am personally responsible for solving my own problems while being guided and assisted by something greater than myself. As I am ready to surrender the conflicts of my ego to the wisdom of this infinite presence, I simply speak these words: I surrender. Knowing that forgiveness is the key to unconditional love and the feeling of heaven, I now unconditionally forgive anyone and everyone who has ever injured me in any way, real or imagined. And I now forgive myself for all of my mistaken judgments and their resulting actions. From my deepest level of understanding, I now say, I forgive. Realizing that I continually experience the effects of my own thinking, I now choose to allow this higher power to recreate me deeply, filling my mind with thoughts that are only positive, constructive, loving, and beautiful. I call upon this divine inflow by stating aloud, I choose. I now center upon that one special idea that I'm willing to accept as real for me in this coming week. Visualizing that idea as already acted upon and brought to pass. In seeing my idea become a fact of my experience, I enjoy the happiness and peace of my thought fulfilled and gratefully speak these words. I accept. Knowing that I have an everlasting place in the midst of the power that sustains all creation, as well as the support of all those around me, I allow myself to relax in the peace of fulfillment and gratitude and say, I release. Now, in my mind's eye, I envision the presence of someone near and dear to me. This could be a friend, a family member, a teacher or mentor, someone who has touched my life in deep and loving ways, someone who may not be physically present in this room or on this planet anymore. I turn to that image in my mind's eye and say, I'm grateful for the good in your life. Now I open my eyes, turn to the world around me, and joyfully speak to anyone physically present in this room or virtually on this broadcast, and sharing confidence and gratitude and saying, I'm grateful for the good in your lives.
Today's topic, really, yeah. Theoretically, this is Henry David Thoreau, part 3. So I am going to thoroughly talk about him. That might be the only pun here. Yeah. Well, there may be more coming along actually. And I think I'll try and keep the front row busy with a few searches on the internet. Okay. For the ones of you online who don't know, have never been here in person, on our front row we have Dainill and Reverend Lisa, and they typically start searching the internet frantically if Reverend Jesse says something that they think they need to search for, whether they do or they don't. Actually, that song really is a great introduction to the subject because it's about nature, kind of, but it's also an invitation for you to, when you go outside of here, when the weather's better, is to take advantage of our garden, which is a natural garden. Mark, who's in the audience today, helps. And also Mary, our harpist, she is really, really keen on that. So take advantage of it. It's really cool. Before we start, I've got a question, and it's rhetorical, so don't start shouting answers out. Why do you come here? Why do you come to a place like this on a Sunday, or Wednesday as it used to be, or whatever the other day? So just think about that, because I'm going to come back to that at the end, actually. I think one of the problems with human beings is that we tend to forget that we're part of nature. We tend to think of us, and then there's nature out there. But in reality, we are just as much a part of nature as the birds and the trees and everything else. We're just an integral part of it. And Henry David Thoreau realized this, and as you've probably known, Reverend Jesse's kind of mentioned it in the past couple of weeks, he took a full year off, and he spent a year on Walden Pond just recommuning with nature. Nowadays, we would call that living off the grid. Right? That's what we would call it these days, living off the grid. By the way, that's not written down here. This is just something I kind of invent as I go along. I subscribe to something called the Daily Om, and it's a neat, nice email that comes in. Sometimes it's got really good stuff, sometimes it's just commercials, but they had a really, really good piece on nature, and I'm just going to kind of summarize that. I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's too much. I know Reverend Jesse sometimes goes and reads here for 5 minutes. I'm not going to do that. And if he's watching, I apologize, but you do. You really do sometimes. It says so much of human experience is removed from nature that we forget that we're products of the natural world. But it goes on to say, we innately understand that our bodies are not composed of plastics or human-made chemicals, and that there's no legitimate reason to consume or expose ourselves to such substances. Now, what they're talking about here really is care of the earth. You know, they're talking about how we as individuals need to care for the earth, and I'm going to come back to that shortly. But I just want to bring someone up here who is called our poet laureate, and most of you probably know who that is. And I did, towards the end of the week, ask Dainill if she would write a poem about nature. So guess what? You're going to come up and read it right now, correct? Okay. So here is Dainill Mercado.
Thank you so much, David. It was toward the end of the week when he called and he was like, hey, would you like to do a poem about nature? I'm like, sure, yeah, let's do that real quick. And it's funny because the majority of you saw me frantically running in after the morning song had already started. It's because I woke up early still working on this poem. So that's what kind of distracted me from actually getting ready and being here on time this week, because we know, I have time issues. But anyway, so David told me it should be a poem about nature. And I was thinking about when Jesse was speaking earlier this week, how he was talking about Henry David Thoreau's death and how he had tuberculosis. But what exacerbated his condition was when he had to go out in the rain to see the rings on a tree, because it's better to see them in the rain. And so just thinking about that and thinking about, the drive that gets you to be so curious about something of that nature that you would risk your health, everything. And so the title of this poem is Tree Huggers. Together, let's ponder the question, why would anyone ever hug a tree? It's not the most comfortable of hugs, trying to wrap your arms around centuries of existence encircling infinite possibilities, a paradigm of photosynthesized symbiosis, the breath of life itself. Like Saturn's rings, forever looping through time, condensing space and matter into hard, prickly bark entwined upon itself, its trunk shields the secrets of eternity, warped and frozen in rings within, married to consciousness. Its limbs hold no welcoming warmth, softness, or give like that of a loved one or a friend. No, it's not that easy to grasp that one grasp connects you with infinity. The perception of a separation that was only an illusion to begin with, you see. And it began with a seed, a tiny fragment of virtually nothing that is everything. As it divided and became divisible by itself yet again, driven to stretch beyond itself, empowered to become more of itself, having everything it needed encased in that little fragment of potential being. Just as you've always had everything you'll ever really need encased in the arms of this earth. Even though as years flow, your skin grows thinner, drier, more crinkly and crunched, folding upon itself, as if shielding a knowing. These crevices contain the same hopes, fears, possibilities, love, tears, universally human, similarly encountered, yet uniquely experienced, encased in the me that stands before thee. My life force, your love, we are embraced. My words caress your inner hue, forever connecting you with infinity, knowing that the perception of a separation is only an illusion in the end. Thank you.
Thanks, Dainill. Thank you for that wonderful poem, Dainill. You gave us a treat. It will come around eventually. I got a couple of quotes here from Henry David Thoreau and also from Ralph Waldo Emerson, because the two are kind of intertwined. After Henry David Thoreau finished his 1 year off the grid, he actually went to stay with the Emersons, and he was influenced greatly by Emerson, as were a lot of other people like Thomas Carlyle, for instance, and Nietzsche. These are some quotes from both of them. Henry David Thoreau said, "On nature as a source of wisdom, heaven is under our feet as well as over our heads," and that's actually from On Walden Pond. And on the essence of simplicity, "I went to the woods because I wished to live deliberately, to front only the essential facts of life. And I see if I could not learn what it had to teach me, and not, when I came to die, discover that I hadn't lived." And there's more, and I might get back to them later. I'm going to leave nature for a little while because we're halfway through the year. And at the beginning of the year, as most of you know, in January, we go back to first principles, right? We do first principles of science of mind. It's kind of a ritual in all of our spiritual centers or churches, whatever we call them. So I'm going to go back to that a little bit. And I'm going to give you 3 pillars that I think are essential parts of science of mind. You know, different religions have got the number 3 as being significant. As you know, the Christian religion has got the Trinity, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, right? And it's amazing, actually, in recent surveys of evangelical Christians, how their view of the Trinity is wildly different from the standard view. But that's like another story. And also, Hinduism has got its Trinity. It's got its Trimurti, if you want to look that up. And the Trimurti actually are the 3 aspects of Brahman. Brahman is the all. And the 3 aspects are Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, which are the creator of the universe, the preserver of the universe, and the destroyer. Because in Hinduism, they go through eras called kalpas. And there's a time when the universe is in existence, when it's in non-existence, and when it comes back again. And this kind of repeats itself. And various other religions have also got the 3. So here are what I think are the 3 essential pillars of science of mind. And the first one is that God is all there is, or Spirit, the divine, is all there is. That there's nothing else. And it's common to lots of other religions too. Hinduism, for instance, Brahman is the all. In lots of other different religions called monotheism, it's different. There is a creator God who brings everything into existence, but that creator God is outside of itself, is outside. It brings stuff into existence outside of itself. Whereas in the concept of the all, everything is created and exists within that one source. And mystics throughout the ages have felt the same thing. So this is really the central pillar of science of mind, and also new thought in general. So why is it important? It's important because what it says is that we are not separate from the source that brought us into being, that we are an essential part of that source, we're expressions of that source, and that it expresses itself through us as we go along. Whereas in regular ideas on religion, monotheism, It's different because the source is separate. So that's why Ernest Holmes said that you can never, ever be separate from your source. The only thing you can do is think that you're separate, but you never are. And it's important because it forms a central core of our next pillar, which is spiritual mind treatment. In spiritual mind treatment, our form of prayer is sometimes called affirmative prayer. There's lots of different kinds of prayer, as you probably all know. And in fact, in the class that starts tomorrow, they list 5, and I've got to look at what they are, if I can find it here. If not, it really doesn't matter. But anyway, oh yeah, here it is. There's 5 different kinds of prayer that they list. There's probably more, but they list 5 essential ones. First one is praise, which you could call worship. And I'm sure we're all familiar with that. If we were brought up in a standard religion, we're perfectly familiar with praise, right? Worship. And then there's lamentation, which probably is not as well known. And then there's beseeching, which is probably the one that we know best, right? It's kind of like when you were kids, or when I was a kid, during Lent, if I wanted something, I would say, "Hey God, if you'll do this for me, I won't eat any more candy for the rest of Lent. I really, really promise you," Or you get down or in a more humble way, you get down on your knees, which I was taught to do every day. Get on my knees in the morning and at night and pray for everybody, basically, my mother and everybody else. Then there's prayers of thanksgiving. And finally, there's affirmative prayer. And I think as most of you here know, and maybe some of you online don't know, affirmative prayer doesn't ask for anything. It affirms a need. It affirms something that we're claiming. So we actually claim something. And why can we do that? It's because of the first principle, which says that the divine is all there is. We're expressions of the divine. The divine's power is running through us. We are intimately connected to both the conscious and the subconscious aspects of the divine, that there is no separation. And therefore, when with belief, which is thought plus feeling, we put our words into the universal subjective, they're going to come to pass. So that's the basic difference. That's how we pray. So when you go to a practitioner or a minister or even someone who's trained in how to do affirmative prayer, that's what they're going to do for you. They're going to claim in their own mind, which is one with the universal mind, they're going to claim you're good. So that's the second pillar. But the third pillar is community. I think one of the reasons why we come to a place like this every Sunday is for community. We're all members of lots of different communities. But we know that community is incredibly important. So it's all well and good sitting on your own, reading a book, knowing how to do affirmative prayer. But when you come to a group like this and you see other people with similar beliefs, it increases your belief. It increases your good. It helps you feel better. But we also know for a fact that community is incredibly, incredibly important. How many of you have heard of the Blue Zones? Blue Zone. That's it? Well, Blue Zones are parts of the world where people tend to live into their 90s and 100s, a lot more of them than ordinary parts of the world. There's lots of different components to it, but one of the essential components is community. So they know that when there's a supportive community, it actually helps you live longer. It helps you live a better life. Yeah, there's other parts to it, which is what you eat, what you drink, being busy every day, doing some hard work. Are you going to go the Blue Zones or not? Oh, you did? Yeah. See, they're busy at it, I mean, they're really busy at it. Our soul session this past week was kind of a little bit about that. Who Who here either saw the original or saw a recording of the soul session? Well, shame on you. You need to go watch it. You really, really need to go see it. It was really good. The two people who were, along with Reverend Jesse Jennings, the two people involved in it were Dr. Cynthia Lindemeyer and Reverend Katie Roxbrigati, who was our staff minister out in California. And she is on right now. And once again, thank you, Katie, because she actually figured out how to reconnect us to Facebook again from Zoom. It's not always easy. Zoom, Facebook, they're always changing the rules on us, right, Lisa? And we got to keep up with it. It's really important because this idea of community came into it. And also they brought up something else which I'm going to get into shortly, which is called sacred activism. Who has heard of sacred activism? Now, normally, when I think about sacred activism, I think about, for instance, racial justice. That's the first thing that comes to mind. But there's lots of other aspects to it, and one other aspect to it is taking care of the earth. And that is a part that came up this time, and that's what I'm actually going to swing back to in a second. But before that, I just want to flip back. I did forget something. When we do affirmative prayer, for the ones of you who are familiar with the Christian Gospels, we're actually really just following what Jesus said and what Jesus did. You know, Jesus never, ever asked his Father to give him something. He always claimed it. He said, "Father, I know you hear me." And when he raised Lazarus from the dead, he didn't say, "Hey, God, would you bring Lazarus out from the tomb?" No, right? He simply said, "Lazarus, come out." Lazarus, come out. Why? Because he was claiming the good that he absolutely knew. He absolutely knew in his own mind. He had total belief that it would happen. And that is when affirmative prayer works. It's when our belief and our feelings merge together and that we actually just know. We get beyond that kind of belief system, we get into a knowingness. So I apologize for getting lost on that. I had about 12 pages of notes, but I threw them away. Oh, I once saw, who's heard of John Cleese? Anybody? He's a British comedian. He went once on stage to give a talk, and he had like this sheath of papers about this big, and he picks up the first one and he starts reading from it, and then after about 30 seconds he picks it up and he throws it away, and then he starts ad-libbing. So I threw mine away, most of them anyway. Pardon? Yeah. It's pretty funny actually. Look him up, you know, Google him. John Cleese. Yeah? You will? You know what else you can Google? Monty Python. Yeah. No, I know about that because I was at college when all that was really popular. So I want to come back to taking care of the earth. You know, we live on a really fragile planet, and it's a wonderful planet. But if you look around, you can see that we, especially in Western society, we've moved away from it. When did all this begin? Well, Reverend Jesse thinks that Western society lost its respect for the earth during the periods in the Middle Ages when there were 2 plagues going through Europe. I don't know if that's correct or not, but it seems a plausible reason. But I think that a lot of it began back in the Industrial Revolution. You know, the Industrial Revolution started in the late 18th century in England, and it's not something that England should be proud of. But it's been the basis of our modern life ever since. But what it did, it started to eat into the countryside. And then lots of the romantic poets, and you can Google these as well, lots of the romantic poets wrote poetry that was telling us what was going on, that we were despoiling the earth. People like Wordsworth, Blake, and so on and so forth. And I had a list of them somewhere, and I kind of lost it. But I know. It's where Dainill puts all of her stuff. It's on my phone. Hey, by the way, you saw the other day what happened when we rely on technology, right, with a big blackout around the world, right, with a cybersecurity deal. Can you believe that a cybersecurity company that's supposed to be responsible for protecting the internet decides to do an update, doesn't double-check the update before they send it out, then they send it out, and it sends the whole world into chaos and delays flights all around the world? That's another story. Yeah. Anyway, Wordsworth, Byron, Keats, Blake, Hunt, Browning. These are all examples. Did I say that too fast? Wordsworth, Byron, Keats, Blake. This one you should remember, Hunt, and Browning. One of the most famous ones is called The Chimney Sweep by William Blake. I'm not going to read it out to you. And another one by William Wordsworth, which I distinctly remember as a kid when I was learning at school. It's called Dark Satanic Mills. And it struck me because I grew up in a part of England where there were a lot of dark satanic mills. And a lot of you remember that London in the 1950s and before was just covered in smog until they started clearing it up. So why am I mentioning all this? It's because I think as a community, and a community that respects other people, and a community that respects the earth, that we can actually start to do something with our sacred activism, and we can actually start moving forward to pass the message out into the world that we need to take care of it. You know, just as a practical example, coming down Gosling here, it used to be full of trees. Now, lots of those trees have gone. Why is it important? Because trees are an incredibly good protection against flooding. They just are. So, yes, we need places for people to live. We need places for people to shop and work. But also, we need to make sure at the same time that we protect the earth enough so that it protects us. I mean, it seems clear to me, and it may not be clear to everybody, that our storms are getting stronger. You know, we've all just recently experienced blackout, right? Either for a couple of days we were lucky, or in the case of some of you, for a week or more. So we've all experienced this. So I'm calling on you to join in something which our community, Creative Life Spiritual Center, will be putting out to you very shortly as the basis of that last soul session, and that's sacred activism. So I'm encouraging you to look out for it. So I'm not going to keep you much longer because I'll get beaten up by the front row here. But in all seriousness, as members of a responsible community, which is Science of Mind, New Thought, I would like each of you to consider joining in on the sacred activism when we actually start putting it forward. So whether we're talking about protecting people's rights so that irrespective of the color of their skin or their religion, they get treated equally, but also that we respect nature. Yes, we do need to keep people employed, we do need to keep people housed and so on, recreation, but also we need to do it in a responsible manner. So please look out for this. It's going to be coming out in the next few days. So summarizing, going back again, the three pillars that I think are essential in our belief system are God is all there is, or spirit, the all, if you like. I know people are allergic to the word God, but I could say get over it, but it's going to be hard for some people. The next thing is affirmative prayer is a really wonderful way to interface with the divine. And the third one is community. Stay connected, be in community. Whether you're online today and you're part of this community, or you're in the group here in person, you're part of this community. So I encourage you going forward to consider these three things. And also, as I said, to consider being part of our sacred activism. So we come to the end of our talk today, I'm going to do a short spiritual mind treatment. Why? Because Reverend Lisa does it much better than I do, and she's going to do it again. She's going to do a full one, so I'm going to do a short one as Jeffrey gets back on his piano. Yeah, I'm a little bit early, but I've got to be honest with you. Until Friday, this talk was iffy. You know, Barbara will tell you, I really, really didn't think I could do it until late Friday because I got some kind of bug. Well, it wasn't COVID. I got tested twice. But I couldn't speak properly. My nose was running like mad. And Jesse even texted me late Friday and said, would you like a sub for today? So before my voice gives out, I'm going to do a spiritual mind treatment. So just know with me that there is one source of all, and that source is running through me. It's running through each and every person here. It's running through nature. It is a power that can lift you up to your highest level. And I claim in this oneness that each of us begins to connect more and more with the divine each day. That we connect with that one source within us. And as we do, we begin to bring into being and bring into life all that is good in human nature. And I claim that love, that is the basis of everything, is moving in and through and as. And each member of the human race, and that the world becomes a much safer, a much better place to live in, and that people's lives are longer, they are healthier. And I can claim this because I see it in this one divine mind. And in this knowingness and in the gratitude that it is true and it is so, I release my word into that divine mind, calling it done, and so it is.
To give and show love. And with that, as we get ready to give and show love, as our usher makes his way to the back, I just want to thank you all for being here, for being a part of this community, for being a part of the love that we bring forth into the world. Everything that we do here is for you, to give you the inspiration and the love you need to shine better for the world, to make it just a little bit better for everybody else. So thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your presence. Thank you for your love. And thank you for all of your financial donations. Your money is put to use here to make this world better. And so we are very grateful for you and for that. And now I invite you to say with me, divine love through me blesses and multiplies all the good I am and have, all the good I give and receive. I am prosperous now, and so it is.
My announcements, and since we are talking about sacred community, and that's one of the things when I do this treatment, when I get to the gratitude part, that's one of the things that I am grateful for. I am grateful for this community. I am grateful for the in-person community and the online community. And if you are in person, you can get to know a whole lot of the online community in the Philosophy Fridays. I invite you to come. The topics, well, we're given a topic. We don't always stay on topic. Frequently, as Reverend David did today, we go off script. And then we talk about what's on our hearts and on our minds. And because we were not able to do in person last week, I actually got to go to the Sunday watch party. And I actually had to tell them, guys, I got to go. I have some errands I got to run before my partner goes to work, because we just sat there and talked for an hour and a half after service. So if you're not coming, if you don't come to service for whatever reason in person, join the watch party. They're something else. So that is community. That is the strength of community. And the beautiful thing about this community is we've got an in-person community and we've got an online community, and they are both wonderful, amazing, inclusive, accepting, and just in general a whole lot of fun. So please do that. Did I just do a whole commercial for our community? Okay. I mean, that's the power of That is what religion is supposed to be. That is what religion is supposed to be. It is supposed to be community. It is people who get together and love on each other. So I invite you to join with me now to consciously enter into the sacred. As Terry says, it's a holy moment every moment. It's all sacred all the time. But what I'm inviting you now to do is to consciously enter into that place of spirit where nothing has ever been wrong. We go there to fill up with that energy, to bring it back here and do our work here. So I invite you to take a nice deep breath, breathe it all the way down. And as you release the breath, relax. And know with me that there is one power, one presence, one life, one love. And that I live that life. I am that presence. That power and that love flows through me, just as it does each and every living being. You will never look in the eyes of someone that God does not love. That presence is around us, always. That presence holds us in that love. And with that love, all things are possible. The care of one another, the care of self, the care of the trees. I'm going to turn into the Lorax. I speak for the trees. The care of the earth. It is the only home we know. And it is our right, our responsibility, and our privilege to care for the earth, just as it is our privilege to care for each other, to look in each other's eyes and see spirit looking back at us, to touch each other with love, to build the sacred community on the microcosm and the macrocosm, to recognize that all life is part of our community. And to know that love from an inexhaustible well. To love that deeply. And to be grateful. To be grateful for the romantic poets who called out a cry. To be grateful for the sacred activists who picked up that cry. To be grateful for this community that loves on each other. To be grateful for a teaching that teaches us who we are, beloved expressions of the divine. I am grateful. I am grateful for this community. I am grateful for this teaching. I am grateful for our ministers. I am grateful for Reverend Jesse, who occasionally takes a day off. I am grateful for our practitioners. And I'm grateful because it's just another word for love. And so I speak my word into that love, into that law, knowing that it is done. And done again. And so it is.
Say with me now, something wonderful is happening through me.
Something wonderful is happening through me.
I feel it in my body.
I feel it in my body.
I feel it in my mind.
I feel it in my mind.
I feel it in everything I am.
I feel it in everything I am.
I choose it.
I choose it.
I trust it.
I trust it.
I use it.
I use it.
And I love it.
And I love it.
And so it is.
And so it is.